promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. So help me God.
So help me God, I promise.
I do.
Yes, I do. Je l'affirme.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do. I do.
Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
I do.
I do.
I do. I do. I do. I do. I do. I do. I do.
Super Spreaders of Truth, we're here for a very special evening. New National Citizens Inquiry hearings have been announced for Vancouver, October 17th to 19th, and for the first time ever, a new topic, not Canada's response to COVID, but our children safe in Canada. Joining me tonight is everybody, all the commissioners, old and new, for the National Citizens Inquiry, here to introduce themselves and give us an idea of where we'll be going with these hearings and what's going on with all that. Shawn, can I throw to you and give us maybe a bit of an overview of how these hearings came about, how the topic came up, and how we ended up with this excellent group of commissioners?
Okay, yeah, those are all long stories, and I've promised the commissioners I won't tell the funny part. So I'm just kidding. So, well, for those of you who aren't familiar with the National Citizens Inquiry, it truly, like we bill ourselves as volunteer, citizen led and run, which is absolutely true. So it's an organization of just citizens that volunteer and make it happen. And they really did the impossible. So in 2023, the National Citizens Inquiry had 4 commissioners, and they toured them across the country, 8 cities, starting at Truro, Nova Scotia, Toronto, Winnipeg, Saskatoon, Red Deer, Vancouver, Quebec City, and then Ottawa. 24 days, 305 witnesses, all called under oath, all questioned by lawyers, and then the independent commissioners. And then the commissioners came out with a report that, I mean, with all the attachments are, I don't know, Commissioner Drysdale can correct me, but isn't it like it's thousands of pages long?
5,400 pages.
Okay. And in at least one province, I think it is 63 of the recommendations are word for word before the government party, seeking to be adopted as resolutions for the party to pursue, so that it's having tremendous impact, but it's all just because you actually make it happen. Like, again, we're having these hearings on October 17th, 18th, and 19th in Vancouver. Well, we're relying on you to follow us on our social media channels and to, post out and make it happen again. Make sure that the world watches this. The first witness we have is an international expert on child trafficking. And it's just going to be riveting, and it's going to go up from there. So, I mean, like literally how it happens. This person has been on the ground, for years and just has experience in this that is incredible, and will be explain how kids are groomed and how they're recruited and what to watch for. So if you're a parent of kids, it's essential that you watch this. I was speaking today with a person in it who's going to be a witness, and it caused me to look at the conversion therapy parts of the criminal code, starting at 320.101. And I actually didn't realize that, first of all, basically young people go through a phase where they're just normally confused, and the research shows that almost every single one of them resolves any confusion when they're older. And disproportionately, some people that identify specific ways have disproportionately a lot of trauma in their life, but we've basically made it illegal for counselors to deal with those trauma if it could in any way lead to a change that the government doesn't want. And it's just an interesting topic. So regardless of how you feel about this, there's just some things I'm learning as I'm preparing these witnesses. So it's quite quite interesting. So we're inviting everyone. There's still seats available October 17th, 18th, and 19th in Vancouver. And as far as our commissioners go, so we've got Mr. Ken Drysdale, who has been the chair of the commissioners from the beginning, who's Ken, we're just very pleased to have you back. I see we've lost Patricia Robertson on the feed, but she'll come back. We're just having some technical difficulties today. And so for those of you, there she is. So for those of you who watched the Regina hearings, Commissioner Robertson joined us as a commissioner in the Regina hearings. And then we've got two new commissioners. So Myriam Bohémier, who is a lawyer with extensive experience fighting for rights in Quebec. And Commissioner Bohémier also had volunteered as a lawyer at the Quebec City hearings. And she's also testified as a witness at the NCI. And then we have Dr. Stephan Larsson, who is a commissioner joining us for the first time also, who just has extensive experience in the medical field, extensive training, including a career as a high-level oncologist. And so he brings a lot of professionalism, a lot of critical thought, a lot of science background. We're just very excited about this set of commissioners, but super excited about the topic, Are Children Safe in Canada? Because it's such a broad topic. It can lead us anywhere. And one of the things that's exciting about the NCI is well, we rely on witnesses to approach us. And, we're always open to all sides of any issue. We're there to listen, learn, and recommend. We're not there to try and get a result. And the commissioners will tell you, and you can look at the rules, they are obligated just to base their report on the evidence that's before them and make positive recommendations. They're completely independent, which makes this truly a unique enterprise that basically citizens can volunteer and make it happen. So Jason, just really excited about what's going on.
Yes, great. So I think an important point, when I immediately posted about this, multiple questions immediately came back to me. What is going to get covered? People will be like, are they going to cover this? Are they going to cover this? Trafficking, social issues that are affecting children, legal issues that are affecting children. So it's broad, and people are looking for a broad scope to be addressed. So it's exciting to hear that witnesses are already being gathered in multiple subjects pertaining to this, because I think it's commonly felt that children face new threats these days. So it's exciting to hear that. And also that tickets are available. Up on screen is a QR code that could be scanned. Put that little off to the side there so we can still see everybody. Head to the site, and tickets are available right through the site. Am I right?
Yeah, and I always have to say, and I'm sad that I have to, but it's nationalcitizensinquiry.ca, because we are being impersonated, sadly. And if you're following, if you were following our old social media channels, you won't be even told that there are hearings. So we had those channels hijacked and no longer have control over them. So, but if you go to the nationalcitizensinquiry.ca, you can get tickets there and also start following our official social media channels. So, and be putting us out. Because again, this is just how it happens. And when you're involved behind the scenes, you kind of find it exciting, because there's just always, we need this to happen, and people stand up and make it happen. So, once again, I feel completely at home with the hearings. And Jason, I have to say, I'm quite excited. I expect the NCI will have to hold several sets of hearings on this topic just because of the interest.
And the depth, it's just endlessly deep topic. I wish it wasn't. I wish it was a dumb question. Are our children safe in Canada? What I'd love to do now is we'll go around the room and meet the commissioners. And if we can just meet you and you say who you are, some of your history. And I'm fascinated to learn how you got involved with the National Citizens Inquiry. I'm going to go with the layout, and that puts you up first, Patricia. Hi, it's wonderful to see you. I wonder if you could tell us about yourself and your path through life and how it brought you to the NCI.
I was born in the UK, educated in the UK. Spent 5 years training in medical sciences. Worked in various hospitals. Very different situation to here in Canada. In Canada, I worked at the University Hospital in Alberta, in the blood bank on the immunology side. I also am a home care nurse. So I've done medicine, nursing. Now I'm into alternative therapies. I'm the mother of 5 children and 5 granddaughters. And it's because of my granddaughters that I felt like I needed to get involved. The effect of the shutdowns was significant on all of them. And I don't want that to ever happen again to any child. My 6-year-old thought she was going, my 6-year-old granddaughter was terrified. She thought she was going to kill me because she hugged me one day. Kids should not have to deal with that. And it was because that's what they talked about on TV. So there was that. And then we have children in the family that have been injured by vaccines. I'm just concerned in general for children of Canada. And now we're going to be vaccinating babies with this COVID jab, which is not acceptable. And we're using mRNA technology, which is new. It's not safe. It's not effective. And we all want answers on why we're pursuing this direction here in Canada when Europe and other countries are not going in that direction.
There are several countries that have not approved at these extremely low wages, right? Europe, you said?
Europe, yeah.
Yeah.
Norway in particular, they have never vaccinated their children.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we're here, seem to be in a race to the bottom here as far as age goes. And so, yeah, these questions need to be brought up. Isn't it wonderful that at least the citizens of Canada have pushed to create this inquiry so that we can ask the questions that Health Canada and our medical establishment should have been asking.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. How did you come to be involved with the NCI?
I just put in an application, and it was you had to remain unbiased, right? And actually, it was pretty intensive. It was a number of pages long, so you had to put all your educational background, a little bit of history, everything you've been involved in. And I was thrilled when I was selected. So I feel very honored to have this opportunity. And I feel like everybody needs to tell their story. To be selected is an honor, I feel.
I feel too. Quite the honor. How would you address the thought of being dispassionate about this? Because, I mean, we just heard you talk about how, you're not supportive of the lockdowns and the medical things being done to children. Do you feel that there's a bias amongst the commission, or?
I believe that I can sit and listen to both sides of the story.
Wouldn't it be nice to have both sides?
Yes.
We sure try.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, it would be wonderful. I was speaking about this, just recently with Albertan, who's doing a somewhat similar symposium in Alberta with medical experts and actually involving some members of the United Conservative Party there. And we were bringing this up again. They've done the same. They've invited everybody from, the pro side of this. And to me, it's just why don't they just show up? Supposedly, they have the entirety of consensus science behind them, the entirety of the support from them. It's the safest opinion to hold in the world that we should be vaccinating babies and stuff like this with COVID. And but they don't show up. Why don't they show up? It should be a slam dunk. Why doesn't one of these people? Why don't we get Timothy Caulfield to show up in the stand and just slam dunk on all of us weirdos that dare to ask these questions, but they refuse to come. One wonders why. Yeah, that's a bigger question, and that's one I can ask. You don't have to address that, but I just wonder why they don't show up. They're invited. They can come and change their mind if they're so correct. So I'd love to see that. Maybe someone will for Vancouver. That'd be wonderful.
So Jason, if I can just step in, because the
Yeah.
commissioners won't be aware of this, they're separate from administration, but there were 750 for this set of hearings, 750 notifications sent out to government officials, including over 100 official subpoenas. So the NCI admin is taking great steps to try and get government officials to attend on these hearings on all areas. So.
Yeah, maybe one of them will bite eventually. I mean,
Well, we had
they
at
show
the
up with one of their
Saskatchewan
own
hearings. At the Saskatchewan hearings, we had a sitting MLA attend and testify who had been, in the caucus of the governing party, and it was fascinating evidence. So here, what we learned is that the Saskatchewan governing party, the caucus. So the caucus is the MLAs in the government party. They actually weren't briefed on what was going on, and this MLA testified. I mean, the impression was, because that's what they were being told by cabinet, is basically this was coming from outside and from the federal government. So it was very interesting to be told by a sitting MLA who was part of the government during COVID that basically they weren't allowed to make the decisions. And this MLA kept their office open and basically was super busy because having to field calls for MLAs across the province who had closed their offices.
Right. Wow. Maybe we offer for them to show up with their own lawyer.
Well, actually,
Maybe an option.
that's allowed, and parties that are interested can apply for standing and have their own lawyers attend and also examine the witnesses. So the NCI is set up so parties that are interested in a subject matter of the proceedings can apply for standing and have counsel attend and examine witnesses. And we've been terribly disappointed that hasn't happened to date. So, some witnesses are going to testify on, let's say, educational issues. Well, if you're a pressure group that wants to have your side of the equation fairly dealt with, will apply for standing and have counsel also examine the witnesses.
Wow. I mean, again, it should be a slam dunk, right? Because they're supposedly so utterly correct, and they can have their own lawyer question them. And does this allow for almost cross-examination?
Well, absolutely, and that would be in the commissioner's discretion. So just like the counsel that call the witnesses, on behalf of the commissioner. So I'm lead counsel for the NCI. I work for the commissioners now, not administration. So if a witness becomes hostile or, is not giving me or other lawyers acting under me answers to the questions, we can switch to leading questions. We can switch to cross-examination, as at any commission can.
Right.
Because it's not like you have one party and another party, so you can't cross-examine the witnesses you're calling. But if a witness isn't adversarial, we try not to go there. But some of the questions are leading. So we're able to do both. And if a party that had an interest in let's say a certain area that's going to be covered for these, they can apply for standing and be granted standing, including the right to cross-examine witnesses that appear to be hostile. Because the purpose of the inquiry is to get to the truth. And it's very effective to have lawyers with different interests examining the same witnesses to see what comes out.
Well, I think that's what everybody would like to see, that at least, those of us that have been involved with this. I think that would be fantastic and much more helpful to the commissioners to really hear both sides instead of, trying to, just extract through one one
Well,
lawyer trying to extract perfectly even, if you had
Yeah.
the other side trying to extract the same play that you get in court that forces a jury to make a decision based on the evidence would help the commissioners so much if we had both sides appearing like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip what you just said about in the very sane and fair presentation that you gave about how this could be. I'm going to clip that, and then for my social media posts leading up to NCI, which has always been all of our best social media posts in our history on social media, were all from the NCI, especially in Ottawa where I attended, because I'll be attending just like you will in Vancouver. And I'm going to start getting out there to the Timothy Caulfields and the CBCs and everyone and just saying exactly what I just said. It's a slam dunk for you guys. You're perfectly correct. So bring in your favorite counsel and convince us that you're correct and we're fools for asking these questions. That's going to be my strategy. We're going to move on now to Dr. Stephan Larsson. Stephan, great to meet you. It's really great to see you actually moving. We're getting used to you on still image there for a while. We had some technical fun before the show started. Stephan, it's great to have you here. It's an honor. Perhaps if you could tell us a little bit of your history, life path, and how you got into the NCI.
Well, I was born in the dirty end of Manchester in the northwest of England many years ago, and trained in medicine at Birmingham University in the UK, and then trained in internal medicine and moved on to clinical oncology and radiotherapy. And in 1989, my wife and I moved to Canada. So I've been here now for just over half of my life, which is why I've got such a broad Canadian accent. Fortunately, I was able to retire just before COVID hit, because had I not retired just before COVID hit, I think things would have been very, very difficult for me. And now I'm a sheep farmer. How did I get involved with the NCI? Well, I followed the NCI right from the beginning because, there was a time when if people stood up and said things which were incorrect or misleading, the correct thing to do was to sit down, marshal your thoughts, collect the data, and argue against them. And if you were right, you would succeed in your argument. But the modern idiom seems not to be that way. The modern idiom seems to be that anybody who contravenes the accepted, especially government mandated point of view is simply cancelled or ignored or insulted. So I'm entering this this process with NCI with a completely open mind, which, by the way, is not the same as an empty mind. It's true that in many ways our children these days are the safest generation that has ever existed in the history of the world. I mean, things like kidnapping and child sexual abuse are probably now less than they've ever been for many hundreds of years. But in many more subtle ways, our children are being manipulated and damaged. And I think we need to bring this out into the open. So all I'm interested in is the truth. And I hope that at the end of our deliberations, we'll have at least crawled a small amount of the distance towards that.
It will be interesting to see what we discover, and I know that we'll crawl closer towards the truth. We certainly did the last time. I think a lot of eyes were opened. I don't think more people are moving towards the thought that, the COVID lockdowns were handled well, that the that the shots were handled well, that they're safe and effective. I don't think more people are moving that way. I think, it's solidly moving the other way. And I think we'll have the same effect with children's issues. One person at a time, but times 1,000 with social media, and this whole thing's going to be broadcasted. I can't wait. It's wonderful that you've joined. Did you apply as Patricia did, or were you contacted, or?
Some of my colleagues suggested that I applied, and I have to admit that having filled out forms for a large proportion of the past 45 years, I was a little distressed by the form I had to fill out to apply. But nonetheless, somebody saw through that and decided that it might be worth asking me to do the job.
Right. Well, you made it through. Congratulations.
Jason, can I give some feedback? I'm finding this quite funny because, again, we're totally a volunteer organization. And I remember, back when it became time to put out a call for commissioners for the first set of hearings, it's like, well, how do we try and find people that, like, because everyone had an opinion on COVID, it so affected our lives. And we actually didn't care, which side of that equation you were on. And I hope that, like Dr. Larsson, who is the most recent addition, I mean, I hope he can confirm. We didn't ask, what's your opinion on any of this? Because that doesn't matter. Can you set aside your bias? So where that form came from, actually, is we just went to a court and modified an application for judges to the court. Because courts have the same problem, is can you put aside your bias, and tweaked it. So I'll lay the blame on whoever put together the application for judges, because that's why it's so thorough.
Well, hey, it probably started in Britain anyway. Right?
Most things did.
Yes. Good point. Good point. Just so you know, we're doing the age before beauty rule tonight. So we're going to Ken. Ken, it's great to see you. If you could enlighten us as to your origin story, your path through life to get you to before the NCI started, and how you came to join the NCI.
Well, I've been around from the beginning of the hearings in 2023. And my background is I'm a professional engineer. I owned a consulting engineering company. I traveled all over the world, working in places in Asia, Egypt, Austria, United States, all through Canada, particularly in the high Arctic. And one of the things that I spent a lot of years in, probably about 35 years of my engineering career, was doing expert testimonies in court. And that always required you to put together reports that were based on facts. And I remember when the NCI approached me and they said, can you be, we were talking just a little bit earlier about, can you be fair? Can you be non-biased? And my answer is that everybody has bias. And as a professional, particularly in someone who's preparing documents for a court case or for a hearing, you need to be able to put that aside, weigh the facts, and then provide the facts without your own personal bias. And frankly, if you don't do that, you will be found out and you will discredit the organization. And particularly when I was doing, testifying in trials, you had to make darn sure that when you said something, it was factual and it was backed up. And I think for the two different sets of hearings we've done now, we did the first, as Shawn said, we went to 8 cities in 2023 and held 24 days of hearings, about 305 witnesses, probably 400 plus hours of testimony. And from that, we produced a report that was about 664 pages of analysis, discussion, review, and recommendations. And the rest of that report was sworn testimony. So when transcripts of testimony. So when you pick up a National Citizens Inquiry report, you can read word for word what the witnesses said under oath in the transcript section. Now, we were also talked about already that in earlier this year, in end of May and June, we were in Regina. And we held 3 more days of hearings. We had 37 witnesses, and we're just completing that report now. I'm quite confident it will be released in the next month or so. It again is in the it was only 3 days. So it's in about, I think it's 600 or 700 pages with about 250 pages of analysis and recommendations. And I think the public is going to be shocked about what we found out. A lot of the information that we had in the original hearings was updated, and some of it is shocking. And Mr. Buckley talked about that we did have one sitting MLA, Honorable Nadine Wilson from Saskatchewan, who did testify at that. And again, it was shocking what she said. There was no due process in the legislature. There was no discussions. It was just a dictate. So the entire democratic process from the inside to the outside was short-circuited there. And so the next, throughout the first set of 8 hearings and that first report, we did cover a lot of information about children. And again, it was shocking what happened with children, what happened in the education system or not. And then what happened after they all went back to school. You know, there was no remediation done. They just started up and continued to go after these children had been locked down. They had been terrified. They had been locked in at home. A lot of kids didn't have access to internet. And so it was a natural progression for us to look further into what was going on with children, particularly considering that the Canadian government is still pushing vaccines for children as young as 6 months of age. I got a notice today. That's kind of funny. I got a notice today in the mail from the government telling me to make sure my COVID vaccines are up to date. And my grandchildren, through their parents, have been getting pressure to go out and get those children vaccinated. So it's a natural outcrop of what we've done to look at this. This is one of the most sensitive areas that you can be involved in and look at. And you know, the reports so far have actually, with this hearing in Vancouver that's looking at children, I think we'll have spanned the spectrum, because in our first report we had significant testimony about seniors and what was going on with seniors, and it just seems natural that we would go to the other most vulnerable people in our society, and that is our children. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to these hearings in Vancouver. I think that they are going to open a lot. It will open a lot of eyes, and we will, as we have in the original report, giving Canadians tools, giving Canadians reference materials to look and see what happened, to be able to actually read what their own citizens are saying. And so we're not just relying on experts. You know, we're bringing in experts and they're testifying, but we're also talking to everyday people just like you and I, Jason. And we're asking them what happened in their own words. And it's terrifying what happened. And although I am looking forward to the hearings in Vancouver next week, I have to be honest, I'm also a little bit, I have some trepidation about those hearings, because coming out of the original hearings, I believe all of the 4 commissioners had some form of PTSD, because you can't, you know, as a human being, as a feeling, thinking human being, you can't sit for 12 hours a day and hear these horrendous stories. You know, I think of one in particular with Sheila Lewis, who was, in my opinion, murdered by the government and the medical system because she refused to take the vaccines, and they refused to give her a life-saving transplant. And since that time, we've heard more stories very similar to that. So again, I'm looking forward to the hearings. They frighten me as to what we may hear based on what we have already heard. But I think Canadians should not hide from this. Canadians should stand up, listen, review, ask questions of each other, demand answers from their representatives. And Canadians can only do this if they have a trustworthy source of information, and that's what the National Citizens Inquiry is.
So well said. Yeah, we're gonna have to steel ourselves up a bit for this one. If you know, there was plenty of wet-eyed moments at the NCI, but this is going to be about kids. So I hear you on that one. Just one final question for you: what is it about engineers? There are so many engineers in social media that are so deeply involved with working on getting to the truth about what's happening, what's going on. A massively skeptical crowd, I guess, by nature. What is it with engineers?
You know, most people don't understand that engineers are scientists. We're what you call practical scientists. So we've been trained to evaluate, investigate, to question things. We're also very well rooted, obviously, in the natural sciences. In other words, when we're building buildings or designing roads or bridges or whatever it is engineers do, and they're involved in just about everything from the clothes on your back to the food you eat to the computers you're watching. So they're involved in a lot of different aspects in society. They understand science. They understand how to investigate. That's what they do for a living. So it's natural in my mind that they would get involved in that. I'm just shocked, though, that the regulatory boards for the engineering profession across Canada have been discouraging that discourse. And that really concerns me deeply, and it should concern Canadians deeply.
Oh, the boards, yes, the medical boards, the psych boards, the dental boards, the everything boards. That's really what a lot of this came from, because the individual members, there certainly is dissent and questioning, but good luck if you do. That's a maybe another topic for the future, eh? And get it straight with these boards. Thanks so much, Ken. I think we're looking at something really important about to happen here in Vancouver, and the start of a discussion that I think people on this side of questioning with the engineer's mind, the practical science mind, questioning what's been happening, are dying to have this issue solved. You see the runaway hit, Sound of Freedom, that came out a few years ago, just that was tried to suppressed by normal Hollywood, turned into an absolutely smash mega chart-topping hit, because people are so worried about kids around the world for various reasons. That movie was very much about one topic, but we're all worried about the kids now. None of us is getting any younger. We're worried about what the next generation is going to be like.
Well, you're right. And the other thing that I really noticed is the silence by terror, and it's touched every aspect of our society. I noticed in the background of your studio there, my wife and I also run a music studio, and we record all kinds of musicians, and we had a tremendously bad time during all of the lockdowns, because people were afraid in that industry, and people don't think about this, but people in the music industry were afraid to speak out because they've been captured by the government. In other words, there's almost no music at all created in Canada anymore that doesn't get some kind of a grant to the musicians. Yeah. And I know we put out a video called Secrets, and it very mildly criticized the government in general terms. And we had the artists come back to us and want their names removed off of the video. And it wasn't that they disagreed with it. They were terrified they were going to lose their grants. Now, that's the same in medicine. It's the same in childcare. It's the same in the schools. I'm ashamed to say it's the same in my profession, engineering. And you can look at it and find it everywhere, from librarians to courier drivers. We have been captured by the government, and people are too afraid that they might lose their daycare, or they might lose their job, or someone might call them a bad name. It's an interesting thing how powerful that is. I mean, after I had Mr. Trudeau call me a misogynist for not taking a medical procedure, which I don't know how the two were related, but nonetheless, you have to thicken up your skin and decide that names aren't going to hurt me, and you have to face the truth.
Yeah. So, I mean, well said. Moving on, we have got another bright new face with us today. We have got Myriam Bohémier. Did I say that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Good. I'm getting there. Yeah, it's been 50 years of reading cereal boxes in Canada, and my French is getting pretty good now.
Oh, good. I don't know what our conversation would look like.
We're about to find out. So it's wonderful to meet you. If you could just introduce yourself to Canada and tell us about your life path and
Yeah.
how you came to be here with us now at the National Citizens Inquiry.
I'm born in Quebec on the south shore of Montreal. I've studied at McGill University. I have a degree in civil law and another degree in common law. After that, I'm a lawyer since 24 years now, and I became also a mediator since 9 years. So I practice mostly to defend people, vulnerable people against big institutions like employers, governments, different institutions, insurance companies, things like that. So I did that all my career. And when they started with the vaccine passport, I had to stand out and to say, because I'm so concerned, I'm I have a deep-rooted sense of justice. Also, I love humans and I love fundamental rights. So
Humans are all right. They're okay.
But I love fundamental rights, So when you oblige people to take away their bodily integrity, it's very concerning for me. And you attack their way of survival. And so and also I specialized through time in family violence and psychological harassment. So I saw directly that what was going on was psychological harassment on the population. So that's why I decided to stand out and to take cases. I did around 80 cases. I was involved in something like 80 cases. I testified the first year at the National Citizens Hearings in 2022. I took some cases where parents didn't want their children to be vaccinated for COVID-19. And I found out that there was no more the question of the best interest of the child, and the question of the informed consent was not also pertinent at that time. And not relevant, it was only public health recommendations, but it became like it was law. The parents had to follow the recommendations. They could not disagree with their recommendations. So
it became practical law, even
Yeah.
though it wasn't an actual law. Did you have how did it go with those cases that you had? Because those always interest me, and I think everyone, because we know that that's one of the paths to justice is to start winning some cases. How did it go for you? Did you get good judges? Did any of them work out?
No,
No.
sometimes I was able to talk to the other parent because he was representing himself and to give him some information. Sometimes we were able to have a lawyer named for the child who didn't want to receive the vaccine. But that's the only way we were able to do something, because most of the time, when we went in front of the judges, they were just applying the public health recommendations. And I felt I was treated more badly than if I was, as a lawyer, than if I was representing a pedophile, It was very, very difficult to represent those parents. So I decided, because they said it's like a public law debate, but how can you do a public law debate on recommendations? There's no law to attack. There's no regulation. there's no decree, it's just recommendations. It's not obligatory. So how can you fight those recommendations in the field of public law? So I was trying to find out, and I created a nonprofit organization called Children's Hand, or La Main des Enfants in French, and to be able to fight those recommendations. And I'm still gathering money to do it, but that's my interest, was really to have parents have the right to choose, the right to
Excellent.
choose for their children. And
So
also,
let's be, sorry, before I'm going to jump in just to make sure
Yeah.
that everyone watching knows where can they go if they want to help out with that organization you've made. One more time with that. It's Children's Hand.
yeah, La Main des Enfants.
Yeah. And what would be the website where they could go?
lamaindesenfants.com or children'shand.com.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure everybody knew that, because we got a crowd that's going to care about that. So maybe they can help you out there as well, because we all got to help. Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
No, so what was I think very important that I did, and I didn't know how much important that was at the time, is since 2021 I'm making contacts, always meeting people from Quebec first, and then I met people throughout Canada and also in United States. There's something called Freedom Council in the US, and it's lawyers gathering together, like solo lawyers, trying to help each other to be able to do something about what's going on, So we have something like this in Canada too, but in the US it's very developed, developed. So
yeah, great. So how did you come to be with the NCI?
I wanted to to be a volunteer to interrogate the witnesses, and
let me at them. Let me in there. Yeah.
And then I was suggested to apply to be a commissioner, so I applied.
Yeah, you survived the paperwork, and
yeah, I did.
Well, that's great. Really looking for sounds like you were born for this. A lawyer, defending constitutional human rights and the underrepresented. So it sounds like this will be perfect for you.
And I have a daughter. She's 6 years old. So
right.
I'm
so
pretty.
I'm
pretty concerned. Concerned about our well-being.
No kidding. Up here in Whitehorse in the Yukon, they are announcing to on some of our shows. I have a co-host, Rain, who comes in with me, and we have fun and interview people sometimes together. Mrs. Rain cut herself. She was probably gutting a bison or something like that, very Yukon-y, and had to go into the hospital to get stitches. And in the 4-hour wait, after which they gave up because the thing was already healed, all over on the TV sets, it's all saying, just to be in there, you're going to need to show proof of vaccination.
Yeah.
Coming soon, I think November. I think we got a couple weeks left, and they're going to start turning people away at the hospital without proof of vaccination. Without a pandemic, there's no pandemic, so we got things we got to figure out. I'm kind of going off here. Don't get me started. We'll be here all night. So if we can do one final round, I'd like to pose one question to each of you. We can start with Stephan, because you've moved to the start of the list. What is the biggest kind of burning question that you would like to see addressed as far as safety for Canadian children?
Well, I'd like to see that our approach to the education and development of our children is evidence-based and factual, and reflects the fact that children are our society's future, and we have to treat them with respect, but also with guidance. And I'm afraid that over recent years, we've done very little of either of those things. All that we've done is frighten them.
Yeah.
So I hope that we can try and redress some of that balance.
Well said, and that's certainly one of my major concerns. Is I've seen this massive move to emotional-based learning, which is really, it's kind of a Marxist philosophy of teaching that came out in the 50s, and somehow we woke up one day and it's being taught almost universally everywhere, and it's the opposite of learning skills, as you just said, learning evidence-based skills. And so that's a big one for me. Well, that's well said. Patricia, what's the one burning issue that you're hoping to get some enlightenment from as a commissioner this time, or just as a Patricia?
Well, I'd like a lot of answers, just because of my medical background, on why they went in the direction they went with the children. None of it made sense. Nobody's even explained why an infant had to wear in daycare a mask, but when they slept, they could take it off. Like, we have toddlers wearing masks who now have speech impediments because they never developed. I think we really owe our children a better future. I feel really sad for the kids in school right now. They're very frightened of everything. They've been coerced, they've been bullied. I feel really sorry for this generation. Yeah, I hear you. Well said. So yeah, I'm hoping that we're going to get some expert testimony about some of that. It's been years now. So things like you said, speech impediments, growth impediments, learning impediments, that, we should be seeing some results now. So it'd be very interesting. Hopefully we've got some witnesses like that lined up, or perhaps for the next set of hearings, we'll see. None of us knows the witness list yet, so we'll see about that. Yeah. I also know personally of two girls that were trafficked, just very, very young, from wealthy families, and you always think it can't happen to your child. And, I hope that comes to light as well. I'm really looking forward to these hearings. I think they're going to be quite controversial, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Agreed. And we're going to, as Ken was saying, we're going to have to be strong, though.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of tough stuff we're going to hear. Yeah. Myriam, if I can cut to you, what's the one burning issue you'd like to see addressed that you have questions about?
But I have two main concerns. First is everything surrounding violence, because I have, a background with family violence and psychological harassment. So my question would be how to go out of it, how to help people, to find recommendations to help them. It will be one of my big concerns. And the other thing is, what about parental authority? Do we still have parental authority now? That's another concern I have.
Wasn't that wild that it actually became something that we could talk about? Do parents have rights? It was basically what it was getting to at that point a few years ago, when I'm like looking around, like who has rights to my children besides me? What are we even talking about? But vehemently argued by opponents that we actually don't have rights, like we're renting the kids from the government, and they know better. The experts at school know better. So I couldn't agree with you more, Myriam. That's one of the biggest dangers that's facing us, and I hope we'll see some experts in this field as well, especially from the educational side of things, which is where I think that's where most of that was coming from, right? Really, the teachers almost trying to take over parenting. So yeah, thank you for that. Well said. Ken, if I can ask the same question to you, going into this new topic, what have you been hoping to really hear about?
Well, I'm going to twist that just a little bit. What I am hoping is that we can provide enough information to Canadians, to parents, to grandparents, so that they can make the decisions that they need to make. We all know that over the last dozen years or so that we haven't been listening to news, and we haven't been provided with unbiased information from our governments, our universities, our institutions. It's all been propaganda. And the only place I can think of to go to where you will get the truth and you will get the facts and you will be able to see it firsthand for yourself is the National Citizens Inquiry. So my hope here is that we are able to provide the fidelity to those people, those brave people who are going to come forth in Vancouver and testify, that when we're writing our report, that we're granted the wisdom to communicate their message to other parents in Canada. You know, we often wonder, and I've been wondering this more and more lately, is how can good people make the kinds of decisions that they have been making in the last 3 or 4 years? And the fact of the matter is that in the majority of those cases, I find that they don't have the information. You know, they rely on organizations that you and I as taxpayers spent $1.4 billion last year in the CBC, and yet you can't trust anything that's, in my opinion, you cannot trust anything that's coming out of the CBC. You know, I don't want this to be interpreted as bias, but after having written the report, the first report, and now having in the process of completing the second report, I can stand on the facts and the evidence there without bias, in that I'm not standing on my opinion, but I'm standing on the facts that were provided to us. And so when you wonder what's going on in Canada, a lot of it is a dearth of factual information, a dearth of where people can go, where they can feel confident that they're going to hear the truth. And my promise to the Canadian people is that when that report comes out, to the best of our ability, it will provide you with the facts. It will provide you with science-based analysis and common sense recommendations. You know, I challenge everyone coming forward to the hearings, and we're on the doorstep of it. You know, we start next Thursday. But I challenge people to go into the first report, which is available on our website, nationalcitizensinquiry.ca, and just go to the recommendations section. There's a section, I believe it's section 7 or 8, and it just lists the recommendation in different subject areas. Go read them. Ask yourself, does that make sense? Have you heard these things before? In your gut, do they make sense? Do they reflect what your experiences were? And so my fear of the upcoming hearings is that more than anything else, this is the challenge before the commissioners. You know, we spoke earlier that a lot of people don't know, but the commissioners don't know who the witnesses are going to be until we sit down in the chair and the first witness is presented. And the other thing about that too is that when the lawyers examine the witnesses, then it's up to the commissioners in hearing that testimony at the time, you know, whatever that legal term is, but at the time hearing the testimony, the questions you hear from the commissioners are us reacting in real time, just like you were if you were sitting in our chair. So again, that is my hope, that this report wakes up people, that it provides them with the information. And I've said this before, and it's probably a bad quote, but I'm hoping that this report wakes up your sleeping giant and fills him with a terrible rage. And I'm talking about the parents, the grandparents in this great country of ours.
So well said. Yeah, that's things are going to change when you get all the regular parents, the people who shouldn't have gotten ticked off, get ticked off. Things will start to happen then. Shawn, if I could throw to you for maybe a little end of show wrap up. A similar question: did you have a big hope going in, like a big question about children's safety that you're hoping that witnesses will clear up for you, or did you want to avoid?
Jason, I do want to answer that question.
Yes.
Because the one thing that floored me about the hearings in 2023 is I thought I knew what was going on until we went through those hearings. And just how every institution was captured. How could it be that every single province had a pandemic plan for a respiratory pandemic before the pandemic, as did the federal government, that was completely opposite of what happened, and every province abandoned it. And every province abandoned the bureaucracy they had to handle it and gave it to public health. And every college of physicians and college of pharmacists and college of nurses, every medical profession, all towed the line 100%. And the universities did, and the schools did, and every provincial government. And so it just seemed that you were looking for that outlier, surely there was going to be the one outlier. So kind of how pervasive it was is what struck me. And I'm wondering with this next set of hearings, Myriam had raised the question of parental rights. And it seems that, parents have lost their rights over medical decisions. But perhaps parents have also lost their rights over gender transitioning. Perhaps parents have also lost their rights in, other decisions. And so are we going to see a pattern? Are we going to kind of see something happening lockstep concerning kids? That's the question that I would like. It's not even a question. It's just, will we see that? Because, the burning question that hasn't been answered by the NCI with, how pervasive it was in COVID is kind of how and why. That hasn't come out yet. We haven't gotten those insiders yet telling us that. So that's kind of what I'm wondering, because when you start seeing a whole bunch of witnesses in different areas, all of a sudden you see a bigger picture you've never seen before, which is, why you can't just pick one witness. Like at NCI, you got to just watch a day at a time.
That's so true.
And don't just... on their website, every witness gets their own page and you could just pick the witness. But I say, no, just pick the whole day, with the pauses and the gaffes and, sorry, we've got having technical problems, because it's part of the experience.
Yeah, agreed. And, I've had to go through whole days of it too. And I agree, it's the best way to experience. And I think everyone should hit this QR code and get off to the site and get tickets. If you're anywhere easily accessible to Vancouver, I'm in Whitehorse in the Yukon. So what's your excuse? I'm going. Let's fill this place up and show Canada how much we care. Everybody go there, grab tickets. Is there a price? Are they free? I haven't checked.
They're free. I mean, the NCI, it's always free.
Yes.
So, and we always just kind of make it, right? So I'm fairly confident that they don't have enough funds to cover these hearings, but we'll ask for funds, at every opening, and just enough will come in, right? But we don't charge for you to attend. You do have to, go through the system for tickets, and that's just so that we can only have so many people in the venue. But we've reserved tickets for local people, and we've reserved tickets there's tickets available. So actually make a point of coming. It's just crazy. And if you can't get a ticket, show up. Likely we'll let you in, because the reality is a certain percentage of people that reserve tickets won't show. So just come. Yeah. And we'll make it work. You will not believe it. It's crazy good online, but it's a very different experience in person, because you got to see these moving parts. Online, you don't see all these cameras and and lights, and our AV team, which is just a 2-person team. And Jason, you're an expert in this stuff. Like, you gotta say, like, they do as good a job as 2 people could do. But the one guy, like, he just doesn't want anyone walking in front of the camera. So it's almost like you're at an airport, all these lines on the ground he puts in tape. It's quite spectacular where you can walk and where you can't. And even, you can't time this. How do you time a witness that's all of a sudden talking about good things? Or you can't cut off commissioners that are asking questions. So our timetable completely goes out. And sometimes, like, I'll skip lunch breaks and stuff like that. Well, I mean, if you're not there in person, like, even just, a commissioner might have to step out for a minute or so. You won't know any of that's happening. But it's interesting because you see it's this process of committed volunteers and commissioners just trying to privilege the witnesses so everyone can be heard. And it's when you're in person that you see that happening.
And, for those of us that don't have to worry about all the details like you guys do, it's an incredible opportunity to network on those breaks in between. So maybe there's a AV issue that puts us, or we've got a lunch break or whatever, and I'm out meeting all sorts of people that are like-minded, or at least curious, and can have reasonable discussions. They're there to see evidence and to see testimony, and so are we. And social media figures I've connected with, CBC stars I've gotten to meet in Ottawa, and so, I mean, it's you can't do that online. We have chat, and hey, chat, I love you in chat right now, but it's not the same. Everyone knows it's not the same. You can actually meet people and discuss this in real time and make friends and really connect. So if you're anywhere close to Vancouver and you can make it in for 1 night, 3 days, do it. Just come. It's free. And there's lots of great food in Vancouver, so it's not like you got an excuse, right? So we have to emphasize, please make it down. Everyone, did we miss anything? I think we've had a heck of a show tonight. It's been an honor to have you guys on. If there's any closing thoughts, anyone would like to interject?
Well, I think for people who maybe don't know, the NCI receives no government money. No large corporate donations. We survive on $10, $25 donations from everyday Canadians. We don't get anything from pharmaceutical companies. So folks, if you can help out, volunteer. If you can donate, wonderful. But like Shawn said, even in the original hearings, we didn't know where the money was coming from each and every hearing. It was kind of rolling along, and it would come in where folks would miss a dinner at McDonald's and they'd send us their money, So again, we're not a government entity. We're not involved with any other industry. We're not getting government grants. We're not the people that are on the screen are all volunteers. I don't know. I think the last time we had 1 or 2 paid staff members, like admin people, did we not, Shawn? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. But now just a social media person. And the AV team is a third-party AV team, but they do it for a song and a dance.
Yeah.
And they're committed to making this work. So, like, as long as they'll work with us, we'll work for them. But still, you have to rent the venue. You have to pay for, like, all of these commissioners don't live in Vancouver. So we've got to cover their flights. We've got to cover their hotels. We've got to provide meals for them. Each set of hearings costs a little over $30,000 to run. And, so, but it tends to come in. So I echo Commissioner Drysdale, please donate if you can. And, and if you can't, that's fine. And follow us on social media and get the word out. Yeah. Because there's something about, remember how divided we were in COVID, and, you couldn't send, we had, within our family, some real divisions. And there's still some divisions caused by COVID. So we had kind of multiple situations. And there's no way you could send Dr. McCullough being interviewed by Joe Rogan. But people will watch Dr. McCullough being sworn to tell the truth and questioned by lawyers and then by commissioners at the NCI because it's so formal. and it's so respectful, and it is under oath. And so we've actually have personal experience where the narrative in some people that we're close to have changed because it is such a neutral forum. And we're going to be approaching at these hearings some topics that really are forbidden to discuss. So this is this is likely the only event of its kind where, you know, parents and grandparents and just people that are concerned and you know, teenagers and youth themselves can actually hear some honest evidence about issues that are affecting, you know, if you're a youth yourself, or, you know, a young adult yourself. And like some of the evidence that's going to come out is going to be terribly disturbing. And I have to say, I'm apprehensive about these hearings too. And I'm mindful that this will be the only forum where this type of thing will happen anywhere in the world right now. And isn't it fitting that it's a group of citizens basically making the forbidden happen? Because that seems to be what the NCI is about, is just having honest testimony and conversation about things that are impacting us.
We had to make it happen.
Yeah.
Exactly. We are the NCI. Like Jason, you stepped in as a volunteer, and those like super cool commercials like that started this show. Like people would think, oh, did they hire an ad agency? No, Mr. Dahl volunteered.
They hired a mad agency,
right? So
I'm just mad. I'm making advertisements.
So, but that's it. And I mean, remember like the Clipper teams that just got formed, right? Like I remember, you know, Payman forming these Clipper teams, but it made a difference because it created this content that was necessary for all the citizens to pump this stuff out. And we need to do that again for this set of hearings.
Yes, there are Telegram groups for volunteers, and you can always find Super Spreaders at super_spreaders on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can message us anytime. I'll get you in touch with any of the volunteer groups if you feel like you can help. I can get you in there, and there's going to be lots of work to do, and we need the help right now. Hit the site, get tickets if you can go, donate if you can't. $4.
And find the official social media channels. Almost everyone is at NCI Canada. Like so, yeah. You know, once the other ones were stolen from us, we just, well, let's have a synergy, and almost everyone is at NCI Canada. Yeah. But it's what's so interesting about this is this is a citizen movement, and you know, I think that the rest of the world, well, I know that the country after country is watching what we're doing, that the NCI is setting the bar for what's going to happen going forward. And it may be that you know, the NCI, like this will happen in every country, because if you read the commissioner's report, and I obviously I have no part in it myself, but there's not an axe to grind. Like you can go and watch the witness testimonies. They fairly report on what happened, and the recommendations are common sense recommendations. It's like, what one of those recommendations can you argue with? Which is why they're resonating. I mean, you can't read that report and go, oh, they had an agenda to say this or that. It's just simply not there. Yeah. And you know, those transcripts, those were self-organizing volunteer teams that decided we needed transcripts. We didn't have the budget or the wherewithal even to organize that, and it was volunteers that did it. Like, how can this happen but for Canadians want truth?
Yeah, it was amazing to watch unfold too. I was in all those Telegram groups and on social media, and we're now watching it reactivate. And we still need more people. All this stuff's going to have to be transcribed, organized. Contact us, get in the Telegram groups. In fact, let me switch my little QR code here so you can find us on Telegram real quick. Boom. So that's our Telegram, and message me and I'll get you in with the NCI volunteer groups. We need people to do every little thing from transcribing to translating is going to be a huge thing, and it takes lots of people to do this. And it was all citizens that started this, funded this, run it, testify at it, and report at the end on it. So, I mean, let's spread it. That's all I can
And
say.
I would, you know, when I say how can it happen, in a way that's a rhetorical question, because, you know, I fully believe God stepped in and just brought the people together because he wanted us to start hearing each other again.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
you know, last year, Mr. Trudeau did an interview with the New York Times, and he said, there is no core identity, no mainstream in Canada. Well, Mr. Trudeau was wrong on that, because the NCI represents the mainstream and the core identity in Canada. And what do I mean by that? It represents the truth, hard work of the citizens. No big organizations, no big money flowing in from all kinds of interest groups where you see in other places. The NCI represents the core identity and is the mainstream in Canada. And so, folks, when you participate in it, it will feel natural to you. It will feel like it is the right thing. And I hope that those folks in Ottawa who think that there is no core identity in Canada and no mainstream in Canada, perhaps if they participated in the National Citizens Inquiry, as we have invited them to, they'll learn that that statement is not correct.
Well, the great 18th century politician, orator, and philosopher Edmund Burke said that in order for evil to succeed, all that's required is that good men do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very enlightening and very encouraging to me that there are some good men and women who are prepared to do something.
So well said. And everyone watching, that means you. So you can do something. We're doing it now. And there's a lot of disillusionment over how things have gone. And I don't blame anybody. But it's good. It starts with actions like these. And if we just sit and, you know, say, it's not, nothing's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. You're watching this, so you're interested. So get on Telegram, get into the NCI group. You can help. Get tickets. I'm not trying to get all, like, you know, stomp my boots here, but come on, people. Like, we wondered how this happened to us. And as Stephan just said, it's if we do nothing, nothing will happen. Maybe we're not going to get every member of the government in jail and on charges and get that all done, you know, right after the hearing or something, but we're getting something done. They thought the NCI would just be the first round of hearings, and now it's the third. And we're moving into new topics. Think of what could happen in the future. Everyone watching, get involved and help. I want to thank everyone for showing up. Anyone got anything else to add at this moment here? We left anything on the table?
Yeah, I was just going to add one thing. My favorite saying from the NCI is truth matters. Truth matters. And I have it on the back of my car to remind everybody out.
Oh, nice. Great. You know what I noticed became super clear for me around that time was that there was one side of people, highly active, arguing for trust. There's another side, highly active, arguing for truth.
Truth.
Yeah, and I think starting to see what happens if you just trust, and why they were demanding trust and still are. And they're looking to make it illegal for us not to trust them if we let this go any further. So it's only if citizens keep questioning this, don't have to align to any particular ideology, but we can't allow a system where we just trust the government, and trust corporations, and trust. We need the truth. So it's so well said, Patricia. Send me one of those bumper stickers. maybe we'll start printing them here at Super.
Everyone who comes to my house leaves with a bumper sticker.
So Jason, so the NCI doesn't sell the bumper stickers, but they have the template and links to a couple of businesses where, you know, you can order 10 for like $30 type thing. So we are actually challenging everyone to print, you know, have 10 of those Truth Matters, like it's NCI Truth Matters, bumper stickers, and make sure all 10 get on vehicles, because people wonder what the heck. Like, it's a conversation piece, and
Yeah.
it drives people to the NCI, and it's something you can do. And how can people get mad at you with the phrase "truth matters"?
Yeah, well, you'd be
Very
surprised
easily.
nowadays. Actually, you wouldn't be surprised, Shawn. I know. Like I said, trust matters, I guess, would be the counter argument. Shut up and trust. So it probably would actually tick off some people. But I'm going to get some of those because I got a nice new Jeep when I moved up here, and it's missing that bumper sticker on it. And that's available on the site?
Yeah, it's available on the site. There's a separate page for it. There's, I think, 2 or 3 different templates, and we're just encouraged. Like I say, we're not selling them, but here's the template. Here's a couple of businesses that will print them off and mail them to you for next to nothing. And please, get bumper stickers and put them on, because it drives people to the website. It drives people to the hearings. It drives people to the evidence.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, great. So the QR code is up, and scan, donate. More than anything, attend. You got the whole area of Alberta up to the territories up here, and giant BC, where it's a quick hop flight down there or a fun road trip to go down to and watch these hearings. They're life altering. I was one Jason before, and then one Jason after the Ottawa hearings. And I'd already watched every minute of the ones leading up to that and was moved, but being there was, I don't have words for it, especially since I got to go to the final one, which was, I needed a couple days in bed to recover from that. That was like you said, maybe light PTSD. So then where are we at? The 17th to the 19th in October. Are we announcing the venue yet?
Yeah, Sheraton.
Yep.
Yes, we are.
Sheraton, Surrey.
The Sheraton in Surrey. So
Sheraton in Surrey, BC is where it'll be. So you know where you are. Vancouver. When you say Vancouver, it's Vancouver.
Oh, I know.
Huge, so.
We're always thinking Greater Vancouver. So
yeah. So there we go. We've got the venue announced. We've been keeping that under wraps to keep the Trust Matters crowd, because they can get pretty violent and pretty crazy. I know in Ottawa, I had 3 different events, film screening and 2 speaking engagements that were canceled due to Trust Matters crowd coming out and doing what they do, asking the business owner, are you aware that this is a white supremacist hate group kind of thing like that, right? And they have their way of doing it. So we've been keeping it quiet up until now, and I'm very honored to release the location. I'm going to put it up on screen here. Voila. There we go. Sheraton, Vancouver, Guildford Hotel. So the screen is up there, and that's going to be up on the site after the show, so you'll be able to find out easily where it is. And all I can say is, I guess a week from now we'll be nearing the end of the first day. Yeah. Wow. I really look forward to seeing you all and what we're going to accomplish together. Do I get to be up at the front of the press table again?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
the voice from the side. Yes. You'll be getting a special NCI press pass, and the stickers is nationalcitizensinquiry.ca/stickers.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. It's been a real honor to have you on, to meet you and or see you again, and I'll meet you and see you again in less than a week.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Nice to meet you, Jason.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. So help me God.
So help me God, I promise.
I do. Yes, I do. Je l'affirme.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
I do. I do.
I do. I do.